a quick background about me and kind of what I'm doing. And then I'll just share a little bit about kind of my journey, and then we can get into it with you guys. I saw you guys have a lot of questions about kind of, or comments about what you guys are working on. And this will be really quick, but I think it's important to understand of my perspective, where I'm coming from based off of the work I've done. So like Christine, I'm totally opposite. I did not have the Stanford, Harvard resume. I did not go become, wasn't on the track to become a doctor like my brother. Um, I took a more entrepreneurial route, and um, and afterwards, probably about now 8, 9 years ago, I started a company with some partners called Urb-e, which stands for Urban Electric. And this is how it started. This is just an example of what we were building. As we were trying to build light electric vehicles. This is before Lime and Bird. And a lot of our time was spent in warehousing with boxes and parts all over the place. And we spent a lot of time counting and inventorying, not very fun stuff. But this was what we began as our retail store. We actually were selling to people online. We started an online store. We had a website that we were selling. We were selling hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of goods every day. Every month. We were also using Facebook and social media early on, in Instagram, and we had influencers. We did business, you might know, with Kanye West and the Kardashians and things like that early on. So we worked early with influencers. And then this is example of Urb-e. So time. Can you hear it now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Give it a second.
Well, we kind of saw it already, Pete.
The only foldable electric vehicle made right here in the United States.
This is the Urb-e.
This is the Urb-e.
But this is the Urb-e.
URB-E.
So this is the new Urb-e Sport.
One great thing about the Urb-e is that you can be this old, and when you ride one of these, you feel that old. It's magical.
Hey, Peter, we actually did hear we heard it. We just didn't hear the music.
Oh, you heard the visual? I mean, you heard
the people talking, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll play this through, because if people are building something their own, they can kind of see the kind of the advertising and the PR that we did behind a consumer product. Okay, so I gave you an example of that because that is that's an example of what we spent 4 years developing. That didn't exist before. We actually had to design and engineer and manufacture. We're doing this all in Pasadena, California, actually in a wedding dress shop. And then in 2018, I just want to share with you that that's when Bird and Lime. Show of hands, who's familiar with Bird and Lime?
So those scooters that you see on the side of the road.
Right. So I'm actually very familiar and actually know the founders of those companies. And early on, we were kind of at the same stage. But the difference is they got funding from venture capital. Does anybody know what VC is or venture capital is? Show of hands, who knows venture capital? So venture capital are investors that invest in ideas of all sorts in different industries. And at that time, there was something called urban mobility and urban electric mobility that people were investing in. And Lime and Bird raised probably about, a couple weeks ahead of us, millions and millions and millions of dollars. They had a bicycle and a toy scooter as their ideas. We had something that was really designed and engineered that was totally new and unique and had multiple patents on it. So we thought we had the better idea, but they had more money and a better business that they was able to roll out. And the reason why I say that is because in 2018, we started in 2015. By the end of 2018, we at Urb-e were almost bankrupt. We had raised a few $1,000,000. We had some really great investors. We had the Kardashians, we had Kanye West, we had, athletes. We had a store at USC. We had all the football teams across UC in Southern California riding our stuff. We looked great. But in December of 2018, we did our second round of layoffs, meaning we had to fire 40 people right after Christmas. We had zero money, and we were on the verge of bankruptcy. The reason why I say this is because at that time we had a bunch of people on board. We were having these, lunches. Everything seemed great. That video, and the reason why the music is important is because you want to feel the excitement and the energy, and that's what everyone thought about Urb-e worldwide. We were shipping all around the world as well, but we were behind the scenes almost dying. And I say that because the pathway that I took and I am on now is the pathway of an entrepreneur, which everyone glorifies because they only hear about the great success stories of the entrepreneur. But majority of us are always on the verge of dying. But the reason why I say that is because it also requires you to really be flexible and creative. And I say this no matter what. I saw some of the ideas that you guys are working on and are interested in, but beyond just the idea, it's the ability, especially now, to learn how to be super flexible, not pinned down to one idea, but always what I call, and I'll come to it later, is called expectantly looking at opportunities. And I want to share now, in 2018, what? Chris, did you say something?
No.
Okay. If in 2018, on vapors, meaning we had zero money, I had not taken a paycheck for almost 4 months, my partner and I. We had a partner leave. I sent an email to Jeff Bezos. Who knows who Jeff Bezos is? Right. And I remember
he's the Amazon CEO.
Founder and CEO, and he has a great biography about him, and talk about grit. Jeff Bezos has a lot of grit, and I emailed him, and through his office, he responded, and we shifted the business in a matter of weeks. And this is our business now. I'm going to share this real quick, the video, and you guys, as you're watching this, tell me afterwards how different it is. I think it's a little bit long there. But so who can tell me what's the difference there?
So now you do deliveries.
Right. We actually, and what were we doing before?
Selling electric bicycle things.
Right, right. What, who do you think our customer is? Who do you think our customer, anyone can answer this. Claire, you're doing a good job here. But anybody can answer, like, who was our first customer, like when we were selling that, for all intents and purposes, electric scooter? Who was our customer?
Um, People, just citizens who wanted to get around the city, and now it's companies who want to eliminate their carbon emissions.
Perfect. That's exactly it. So we went from what we call a consumer focused brand, like consumer focused companies are what we call CPG, consumer products, which are like anything from food that we eat based off an individual goes to the grocery store, buy something, to cosmetics, to clothes. Like, for example, Zara is a company that sells things to, clothing to people, individuals. How do you think that they market, or how do they get customers like you guys, like yourselves, to buy their products?
They advertise.
They advertise. What else do they do? Brand, you look comfortable. If I'm anybody, Ellie, Cadence, I'm just looking at these. Brianna, I saw you switch off. You can't hide from me. I see the names. How do you think how do you think that people or brands get customers to buy their stuff?
I think they really like fill a need that the customers have.
Right. They fill a need. They advertise. What are some of the channels or methods that they reach out? Like, how do you guys learn about new products or or products that your brands that you like are coming out with, like, are new? Could be fashion, clothing, music. How do you learn about this stuff?
Like their social media or influencers or celebrities.
Celebrities, social media influencers. Right. Um, that's exactly right. So in the first example of that video, our ways of getting things out for people to buy things was using social media, our website, influencers. It's like, oh, hey, this is what we're producing for so-and-so. And then they tag us, and then other people like yourselves and customers like, oh, where do I buy that? That's direct to consumer or consumer products. And the good thing about that is it looks really flashy and it's fun. But the hard part about that in a business sense is that happens with people buying one by one by one unit. What about the second model that I shared, that video? What's different about this? Claire, you had mentioned the customer is different because, oh no, I'm sorry, Chanel, you mentioned that it's businesses. Could you elaborate? How do you think that we now sell to those customers?
Well, I think that now everyone is trying to go green to eliminate, like I said before, carbon emissions. And so electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles are a good way to start with that. And so now they're looking out for companies that, offer those services. And so I think because you got to Jeff Bezos so quick, Amazon was able to kind of jump onto that and use you guys. So.
Right. And then, so that in those, our customer are now businesses. How do you think businesses learn about this stuff so that they can buy it?
I think either through advertising, but I also think a lot of the world is very up to date on global warming and things like that. So honestly, just word of mouth things, maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe you contact them to see if they want your service.
Exactly. Anything else? News, articles. Imagine if you work for a company, if you don't become an entrepreneur or you are an entrepreneur within a company, and your boss says, hey, we want to do, I just read this article in the Wall Street Journal, or I saw something on CNN that said, you know, zero emissions is what's really important for companies to be doing. Ellie, please, by next week or by next month or by next quarter, I want our company to be shipping all of our stuff zero emissions. I don't want it to be shipped via vans or stuff like that because our customers care about that. And if we do that, I want to advertise it on our website. Our cosmetic brand uses XYZ to deliver things zero emissions because we believe in saving the planet. How would you do that?
You would have to find a product that helps you fit the need.
Right. So you would have to do some research. You'd basically start Googling keywords of like zero emission, mobility. You wouldn't be looking at influencers necessarily or the coolest brands necessarily on TikTok or Instagram. So my point is that we started, as you saw on that first slide, one way, which is we started on the floor of warehouses, counting parts and putting them in cardboard boxes. We shifted to a really cool, snazzy retail store, and we started selling online to customers. And then we almost went bankrupt because competitors, other brands that had more money, they didn't have a better idea. They had more money and a business that pushed them above us and almost killed us. And then we shifted to another completely different business with completely different customers. And as we just heard from you guys, a completely different way of advertising or getting the market out. And that is very, very hard. That's right. Oh, Christine, I was like, oh, that's right. It's pivoting. And that is, and that's what I wanted to share when it comes to entrepreneurialism and becoming an entrepreneur or even starting a small business yourself, is that it's really important to have a good plan and a vision of where you want to go. The reason why is because it's easier to explain that to people who either want to buy your product, invest in your product, or support you. But there are certain things called market forces that happen that nobody plans for. And if you want to continue on doing your own business, instead of closing it down or dying, which is always an option and a possibility, I'm just, as from my own experience, I think this idea of pivoting, not many people talk about it or have examples of drastic examples like this that we've done. But I mention it because it's something to keep in mind when you're building a business. That makes sense? It's hard to, when I'm looking at these little things and we're not in person, it's hard to get any, I'm trying to, you can say yes and everyone's on mute, but that's okay. Are there any, there's some, let me go through a couple of other things and then I'll just turn it over. There's a couple of other things I wanted to just share with you really quickly, and then I'll let you guys use them as talking points or if you have any questions. Let me go to this real quick. Okay, I'm going to do my, oops, not this. Okay. Who's thinking of doing their own business, or who's interested in working for themselves, or who has parents that work for themselves? You can raise your hand. Either one of those. Ellie, I only see Ellie, Claire.
You
Great.
can answer in
Okay.
the chat too. Ellie, what do your parents do? And can everyone have their cameras on so I can see your faces?
My mom used to be a teacher, and then my dad is like in software, but he runs his own business.
Awesome. Great. And Claire, how about you?
Well, my mom is a substitute teacher. She works with some sort of organization that helps substitute teachers find jobs, but I think that's sort of entrepreneurish.
Great. Right. So when you're doing your own business, and it's very smart, and you don't always have to start off right off the bat doing your own business, but basically business in general is buying and selling of something, or making something where you buy parts and things like that, or you develop something, a service, which you either go to school for or do whatever, but you basically sell it to somebody who wants it, who values it more. And that can be really great if it's like something that's buying and selling that's like hotcakes, like everybody wants it, whatever that product is. The reason why I put up risk reward in something when as what we think about all the time is that as you think about whatever you want to do, whether you're buying, lemons and, making lemonade and selling it, is that what could you be doing instead of buying lemons and selling lemonade? Could you be doing something from a purely monetary or economic standpoint? Could you be doing something where you spend, your X 10 hours a day instead of buying lemons and making lemonade? Could you buy something else or make something else and sell it for more money? And the reason why I say risk and reward is because the risk is that nobody will buy your stuff. Nobody will buy your lemonade and you have to throw it away. So you wasted, what I think is the most important thing is not necessarily the money to buy the lemons or the lemonade. It's you wasted your 10 hours of your day, which you can never get back. So I just put that up there as a risk and reward thing. The next thing I want to just put out there, broad strokes, is expectantly looking. Everybody always says, well, I want to start a business, or what should I do? Or even when you're looking for a job, it's like, well, I don't know what type of job, I just get any job. I think actually that's all fine to ask those questions. But I think in each one of those, whether you're looking for a job or building a career or finding out what you want to do, or you want to build your own business, there's something called expectantly looking, which is something I studied and worked on in MBA school, which is you're not looking aimlessly, but you are looking with intention to find something. You know what I mean? You're looking or you're working on stuff with the intention to do something with whatever you're developing or you're learning. So many times, for example, education is really a good example, like going to MBA school to get a degree. People go, look, I have an MBA, I should get a job automatically. And you know what? You probably could get a job. Many MBAs do get a job. But many of them, they hate it, because they just jump into something that they're focusing on the money only. Expectantly looking is that, it encompasses your passions and things that you want to do that make your life fulfilling. And the fact that you can make money or support a family on it is great. But as something to keep in mind is these two words of expectantly looking, because whatever you do or whatever you are planning or whatever you're engaged in looking or searching for, you should have the mindset that when you see an opportunity, opportunities will develop, but you should have the mindset that you're looking with intention. Does that make sense? And the final thing is that I just think all encompassing, and we can then jump to your guys' questions and suggestions that you're looking at, is that grit is like the number one thing that I think is overlooked. And it's the most important thing. And there, as I said before, everybody, when people hear about entrepreneurs, they think of the Jeff Bezos, they think of the Phil Knights, the CEO and founder of Nike. They think of, these great companies, but and they think of the investors and the opportunity and these great services that they have now. But to get there, and something that you guys can keep in mind that is really, really important, is something called grit, which is, you guys can read this yourself, but it's not even the passion, it's really the perseverance for long-term meaningful goals. It's really important to know that it's in order to see through or see the rewards or the benefits of work that you're doing now, the only way you see it is you get through difficult or challenging or ambiguous times to realize the benefit of whatever you are working on, and that's called grit. And that's the most important thing as you guys are entering into your career, your first jobs, or even a business that you want to start, it's not the idea, it's not the network, it's the ability to see through to realize the benefits at the end. Okay, that's it. I've been talking too much.
Any questions about his journey through Urb-e or MBA school, or just business in general, business questions in general?
Let me,
I just feel like any and all businesses are just like always fluctuating up and down. My oldest sister got her MBA and then started working for this clean energy company called Ørsted. They're a Danish-based company, and they were doing so well. They were like having all these like business trips and holiday parties, and now they're slowly like going downhill, and now my sister's super worried about that. But yeah, just all businesses have their ups and downs.
yeah, you know what? That's a great example of so sometimes people think that doing their own business is more risky than working for a cool, flashy company. And I made that example because we look like a cool, flashy company, but that's not always the case. I would actually venture to say that if you go into a business or a venture that you, with a partner or whatever else, that you think that is really, that you're passionate about, or you're really interested in, or you enjoy the challenge of, that is less risky than putting your future, your time into a company that could be spending their money and resources and time wastefully. And then all of a sudden, like for example, Facebook and some of these technology companies laid off 10,000 people, or Amazon actually at one point last year. I knew people who I was working with were laid off. They had been working there for 15 years. They don't have the opportunity. Like, you guys are young, you should try things. Whether it's a Shopify store, an Amazon store, you should try. Whether you're selling lemonade, it doesn't matter. Just try something, because it allows you to understand how valuable time is. And if you work for a company where you think that they're wasting your time, then you should leave.
Ellie
I
said,
saw
how did you get in contact with the Kardashians and Kanye?
One of our interns that was working with us was working out at a gym, and he was working out, and Kanye was there, and he's like, "Yo, Kanye, look at what we're doing," and he showed him our Instagram page, and it was during Christmas time, and he's like, "Yo, I want to buy those, but I want it to look, Kanye-ified." So he gave us some custom stuff, and we made 10 of them, and we delivered it. I actually delivered it with one intern in a U-Haul van to the Kardashians in Calabasas. And then they were riding them around in some of there's Travis Barker and some of other time people saw it, and they're like, "Where do we get these?" And they reached out to us, and they wanted to buy themselves. But those are really cool, flashy things, but it's not like they buy a ton of them. If anything, they want you to give it to them for free.
You didn't even give me one for free, Peter. I'm still.
I know. Sorry. We didn't give they bought them.
All right. Kylie said, how did the beginning of growing your business start? Was it hard?
Actually, the beginning part was not hard, because there's so many little things that you have to do that are very straightforward. It's actually, the hard part came when other companies started seeing our business and copying it or changing it, or challenging us. The market started challenging us. That was very difficult. Another thing that was very difficult was hiring the right people. And something that's really important, what you guys can do, at your guys' age and time of your career is try to be, at your age, nobody's looking for experience. It's always the chicken and the egg. People are like, well, what have you done? You're like, I haven't done anything. Like, well, then how can I hire you? The great thing about this is the attitude. It's your attitude and perspective to want to learn and put in hard work and come up with good ideas that aren't just like, that have some thought to it. They might not be foolproof and solid ideas, but I think that if you ever want to work for a startup or work for a technology company or work for a consumer brand, companies, especially at your guys, as you guys will be beginning your careers, are looking for people or individuals that are creative and take initiative. Meaning, instead of saying, okay, we want to, you say, hey, last night I was thinking about that problem that you had in this meeting that I overheard while sitting on the side. And I thought that this would be a great thing. I just looked up these 1, 2, 3 things. And I think that this would be a great market, or, young people think about this problem in this way, or, climate change is really important to this, and this really equals money or saving money. And whether or not your answer is right, whoever you're presenting it to, a manager or whoever else, is going to be like, wow, that is really impressive. I wonder what else they can do. And that's when they're going to be like, hey, can you come to this meeting? I'd like to get your insight into that. Even if it's right or wrong, those are the types of doors that you can create for yourself.
Why did you decide to learn Chinese and go to China?
I thought it'd be like Spanish, really easy, but it was really hard. No, I at that time in the early 2000s, China was developing and there was a lot of business going on in China. And I thought that learning the language and being able to speak to people in their own language would open doors to do business. And our dad was a doctor. And so it was very different than, buying and selling a good. He was selling a service, but I never experienced that. So in China, I was able to work in a factory and learn how things were designed, engineered, created, and sold. The first thing that I ever worked on in China was antenna and phone antennas. And one thing, the first iPhone, we developed the first antenna for the very first iPhone. They used another product later on, but we designed it for them.
Wow, you sound so old when you say that.
I know.
The first iPhone.
I know. Because without an antenna, a phone cannot communicate. It's just a tablet without any communication.
I'm assuming it's like a hidden antenna, right? Nothing that's like sticking out.
We did both. We actually did the ones that pull out and then the ones that were in the phone. They called it an embedded antenna, which everyone was like, oh my goodness, it would be so incredible if the antenna was in the phone and nobody saw it. I saw somebody who said that they were, if I had $10,000 to start a brand, I would like to open a marketing firm. I say it's because my dream job and the biggest challenge I would face would be competition in the industry of building a clientele. Who wrote that?
Taylor.
Anybody? Taylor? I don't know.
Taylor, do you want to elaborate? Taylor can't. Oh yeah, go ahead.
All right. Wait, were you speaking to me or somebody else?
Yes, you, Taylor.
Oh, about my response?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just 1 second.
What struck you about that, Peter?
Well, I just thought it was interesting because opening a marketing firm, opening a marketing firm is really interesting because nowadays it seems like via influencers, people are organizing, it's a change that's happening where before marketing firms used to be an organization, a company with different departments and things like that. But now I've been seeing like, you know, influencers who are pretty savvy are actually developing their um, own marketing companies and firms like the Logan brothers, and that is a really powerful thing. And I think that actually, if you're interested in marketing, it's a really good industry that is changing pretty drastically. And there's a lot of rules that are being broken right now. And I was interested because you said I didn't know if marketing was your dream job or it was your biggest challenge.
Oh, I meant my dream job.
And why is that?
I don't know. I feel like mostly I have an interest in fashion, and with like a marketing degree, I can go into like the fashion industry. And yeah.
What are your examples right now of fashion marketing?
Mostly through social media, I would say, or like online, just expanding like the clientele or audience.
Do you think you need a degree to do that? Like, do you think you would need a degree to do that?
I don't think I need one, but I would say that it would be helpful to get like more knowledge on it.
If there was a brand that you wanted to market for, which one would it be?
Um, I haven't really thought about it.
Okay. Is there a product that has influenced you and you would like to buy or have bought that you saw on social media?
Mostly makeup or skincare, I would say. Nothing specific.
So, I know a little bit about this, but like the Kardashians, I feel like every one of them has a cosmetic line. They don't have a marketing degree.
That's true.
Actually, marketing firms seek them out and pay them a bunch of money, not only they speak for themselves, their own brands. Um, uh, there's a bunch of comedians. There's I'm just The Rock. I'm just forgetting his name, but there's a bunch of comedians and guys who are opening up their own brands for like alcohol, tequila, fashion, and none of them have a marketing degree. The reason why I say this is that I think right now the things that appeal to you, marketing degrees do not speak to. There's three things in marketing, which is price, position, and price, position, and there's something else. But there's those three things are really like, I just encourage you, because if you have a desire, it's your dream job. This is exactly where I think that young people early on shouldn't waste time on like getting a degree for or trying to learn something. You should just try it. You should use an example of a brand or influencer or cosmetic brand that you like and try to replicate that on something else or
Okay.
help someone replicate it.
Yeah.
Well,
But I thought that
how about just like getting a job at a place that you admire and then learning from how they do it? Because I think just trying to replicate something you see, if you don't know how to do it, or if you've never worked in that field, is kind of a high jump.
Yeah, I feel like working like my way up to the top would be another great option. But I just felt like college was like the safest option.
you know what we look at college for when we hire people? We look for if they're able to get like, I didn't go to my sister went to the best colleges you can go to. It's very, very hard. We do very different things. But if I see somebody that has a degree from like a Stanford or Harvard, what speaks to me about that is not the things that they learned there. It's that they excelled enough or they executed well enough to get into those types of schools that are very competitive. And I just would want them to work with me, because if I was working on a project and we had a deadline, I feel like that they would be able, compared to other applicants, would be the best person to be able to execute on that, because we're working with deadlines or short timelines all the time. And for me, education is a good gauge of actually grit, which is what I think employers want to know the most of, whether it's marketing or anything. So academics, when you say safe, just because you have a degree, I think a degree with good ideas and showing great initiative is a sure way to get a job, especially something that you want.
So you would recommend college?
Yeah, I would. Also in college, it's a great place. College is not just about the degree. I think college is the best place for you to learn, to talk with other people and get exposed to new ideas. I mean, look at some of the best companies, including, early on, Mark Zuckerberg or all these other guys early on, they came up with ideas while they were in college because they had the time to hang out with friends, to see problems, and they didn't have a job every day to go to, or they weren't stuck at home, with their parents asking them, what are they going to do? In college, you have a good idea, people can help you realize those ideas and execute or try them. I think that's the best part of college. Unless you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant.
And there's some people that are going into fields where you don't necessarily, yeah, it could be like just a different avenue, different trade school or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Everything I'm saying is from an entrepreneurial perspective.
Mm-hmm. All right, last chance for questions. Well, what was your college background again?
Oh, my college background was, I went to UC Santa Barbara for 2 years, where I studied communications for the first 2 years. And then and then I transferred to a small liberal arts college called Middlebury College in Vermont. It's a liberal arts college. And I will tell you that a couple of things. One is I went to UC Santa Barbara because I got rejected from everywhere else.
This was back when it was easy to get into the UCs, by the way.
Whoa. Wasn't that easy. No, but I didn't get into Stanford or Harvard or UPenn or Brown or any of the Ivy Leagues, or Berkeley or UCLA. So I went to UC Santa Barbara, and I had an incredible time. Some of my best friends still to this day are from UC Santa Barbara. And actually, from a career standpoint, they have done way better than some of my friends who went to better schools. And I had a great time at Santa Barbara. I went to Middlebury mainly because at that time I transferred, and that was very difficult because Middlebury is very selective. They only took 6 transfers, 2 of which were Navy SEALs who transferred in with me. And so that was a challenging thing, but I was a unique enough candidate that they wanted. First of all, in Vermont, there's not many Asians. I think that helped me as well. But one of the great things about a small liberal arts college is that the professors are really, really awesome, meaning they really spend time helping you learn, about these, learn and internalize academics that could otherwise seem like really boring and mundane. And they help me learn to write better and to think better, and to learn Chinese. And they're very encouraging. And then I graduated with that and then went to China. And then I got an MBA later on. The MBA I thought was actually a safety thing. I think Taylor was mentioning, it seems like, that would be a safe thing to do. And in one point, yes, that is, you can always fall back on a degree, which is very important. But I think within the MBA and especially at USC, the biggest and most important thing that I received from USC is the network of friends after we graduated, which I think is very, very important. Never underestimate a network of friends when doing business or looking for a job.
Thank you, Peter. That's I feel like I learned about you more in this hour than I have, I don't know, the last 10 years we've been having dinner together. So
I know, because the last thing I want to talk about is my work.
yeah, I know it's been a roller coaster. And I think that's why when I look at entrepreneurialism and entrepreneurialism, it's not for the faint of heart. You know, I don't like going on a roller coaster like that. And you say grit is important, but I feel like at some point you also have to know when to cut your losses. And I wouldn't know like how to keep pushing myself if maybe, and if I don't know how to pivot, how to like stop bleeding money, you know, sometimes you just have to like cut and, you know, cut the line. So I think that's, you know, a constant up and down experience that I like having, just kind of like safety and, you know, a paycheck.
Yeah. You know what, the one kind of fun thing about this is, and when I was thinking about this in college, I always wanted to do my own thing. But one of the cool things is when you talk with other founders, and it's a select group of people who actually are founders of companies that have raised money from millions of dollars from venture capital, like we have, and have actually made it past 5 years, because most companies fail within 5 years, is you become companies and founders, it's like a support group. And some of these founders are, you know, founders of large companies like Instacart that just IPO'd, Lyft, Uber. Like I've actually rubbed shoulders and met with these founders or their core groups. And that's a huge benefit. But one of the cool things about this is that these guys, if you're just looking at it from a purely economic standpoint, there's a lot of hardships that they went through and a lot of, you know, horrible things that have happened that were unfair or whatever else. But they made an enormous amount of money, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Brand, I saw you turn your video on when I said hundreds of millions of dollars. My point is that there is a reward to that risk. These guys never have to worry about a paycheck again in their whole life. My point is that there's you shouldn't lose sight of that. And money is a very, very important part of this, because investors will ask you, how much do you want? What are you looking for? When you sell the company, what percentage do you have to hold on to? So it's not you have to advocate and push on behalf of yourself and your company and your idea during these times that are hard. But at the end of the day, the reason why you do this, one tangible, very concrete, black and white way, is you can make hundreds of millions of dollars. You can also lose everything, but you can make a ton of money.
On that note, I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you so much, Peter. Go back to your WeWork. And if you are junior or senior and are in the middle of college apps, or are curious about the college app process, or want to know how SCOIR works, that SCOIR, please stay on for like 10 minutes. And I just want to show you some cool stuff about it. My daughter Audrey is on here as well, and she'll show you. So otherwise, sayonara. See you guys. Do your work.
See you guys. Bye. Hundreds of millions of dollars. Just remember. Okay, bye.
Wait, Miss Hong, I can leave?
Yes.
Yeah, all right, bye.
All right. So are you guys all staying on to see? I'm gonna
Yes.
okay, I'm gonna stop the recording.